In today's episode, I sit down with Stephanie Poelman, owner and managing director of Pherform. This girl has done some amazing things since she took over the responsibility of running this show. And in this episode, we talk all about her story. We talk about the challenges of running a female-only gym. And we also talk about community, the power of community, and how that positively impacts business. Enjoy. Hello, Stephanie.
Hello, Ed.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
Again.
I know. I still remember the first time.
Yeah, times have changed.
Times have changed. The room has changed. You've changed. We've all changed.
I'm supposed to not
You're
be
married?
aging. I am married.
You
That
are
is very
married.
true.
Yeah.
Stephanie, you came on, I think it was episode, with like very early days of the podcast. We were mid-COVID
Mm-hmm.
and we got together as a group of business owners and we were talking about how we were navigating the times.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward since then, you are, I think you were at the time actually, a newly appointed or maybe very close to becoming the owner of Pherform Gym in Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, I mean, I've been following your journey in person. You've actually helped me with a lot of things more recently with business, but been following the journey of you and Pherform, and you're just doing amazing, amazing things. And as part of this series, we wanted to get you on to talk about business, Hong Kong, building a really successful gym and all the things that go into that. So maybe to kick us off, for listeners who weren't here at the start, who are you, Stephanie, and what do you do?
Sure. So my name is Stephanie Poelman, and I first have to say is when I moved to Hong Kong in the beginning of 2018, Kosa was my first gym. And so I have a lot of fond memories of being in this space and you as a coach. And so to bring it full throttle, obviously being here is something very exciting. So I'm originally American from the States, and I was given the opportunity to move from the States to the Middle East, specifically in Kuwait, to open the first female CrossFit gym. And this was back in 2013. And so that was kind of where I started my big fitness journey itself when it comes to working in the fitness space. My background's HR. I love that aspect, but fitness was always something that pulled and gravitated me towards wanting to be part of, and being introduced to CrossFit back in the States, and the opportunity was just like, here's a chance for me to be able to do what I love fitness wise. And from a business perspective, the offer was fantastic at the time. And so moved there and opened the first CrossFit female gym. And then from there, opened another 7 locations, 4 of which were female specific. And yeah, it was quite a journey, obviously, working with women and in that space. It's not necessarily a choice to be able to do it, but it's brand new. Exercise itself was, what does it look like? CrossFit, what do I do? And so having the opportunity to be able to build female gyms, have an opportunity to bring 60 international coaches from all over the world, to move to Kuwait and make a life of being a coach and being presented a package that included, salary, the total compensation, housing, vacation, being able to provide an opportunity to be able to make money versus a lot of times in the States, you weren't able to do that. And so that happened. And then I got the opportunity to be able to move to Hong Kong at the end of 2017 to be the managing director of Pherform Gym, which is the gym in which I own now. I bought that back in July of 2021. And here we are 4 years later, officially sitting with you again. Talking about Pherform and everything that fitness has brought to me in my life. And and that's the thing, is I'm so grateful because I love it from a personal perspective, but that I get to do it on a daily basis of something that I'm so passionate about, and changing other women's lives through the thing that changed my own life.
You know what I did not realize? I didn't realize that your journey before Hong Kong was actually in female gyms. I did not know that you were working in women's only gyms over there.
So I don't know if you remember this. When I was looking at moving to Hong Kong, I had a list of all the gyms that I wanted to reach out to. And because obviously you were connected at the time to my ex, you got on a call with me. And I went through all the lists and I said, what do you think of this? What do you think of this place? What do you think of this place? And one of them with Pherform, obviously being a female gym, you had said, I know I don't know enough about it, but I know that it's been good of what I've heard of it. And the things that you told me were the reasons that I reached out to the gyms that were on my list.
Oh, we
And
never
that,
spoken about that. We've never done
yeah.
full circle on
And
that.
at the time, the owner, I could not find his email address anywhere. Like I searched up and down. It wasn't on the website. It wasn't on LinkedIn, but I found one that said info at Pherform. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to I'm going to send it to Alex at pherform.com. And it literally went to him, and he responded saying, hey, let's get on a call. And that's what was sparked everything. But your comment and the thing that I was so grateful for is that you didn't know me, and you took the time out to have this call from someone who is living in Kuwait, who's saying that she's living, like, coming to Hong Kong, going through the different gyms here in Hong Kong. And yeah, what you said about each one was the reason why that I would say why I'm where I'm at today.
Wow. I thank you for
Yeah.
reminding me. I
Yeah.
genuinely, I remember speaking to you, but I can't really remember like what we were talking about. And I'd never made the connection that that call was why you ended up there.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you for bringing that up and sharing
Yeah.
that. But like okay, so I'm understanding this now, right? You got the skill set in HR, but you're super passionate about fitness. And ever since I've known you, that passion is very, very obvious.
Mhm.
But did you just wind up landing a job in a women's only gym? Or was that something specifically, back in the Middle East? Is that something specifically that you felt gravitated to want to be a part of?
So I worked corporate HR when I was back in the States. I was in Texas, and I got introduced to strength and conditioning training. There was a gym that I was running down in Austin, and they were throwing around some sandbags, and I was like, "What is that?" And so I'd never done CrossFit. I'd never done strength training before. I was all about running and thinking that that was the best way to be able to lose weight, And again, this is the mentality of a lot of women, still is, where it's changing drastically. But what it was before is that you exercise solely for the reason of losing weight. And so I would do that. And I came across this group that was doing this crazy workout. I joined and I died, and I wanted to do more. And that then introduced me to CrossFit because I wanted to do more. I wanted to do these. I did this workout and this competition, and it was a CrossFit competition. And so I was like, okay, find out a little bit more. Then I started learning how to do double unders. And then I started becoming part of this company that did double under clinics. And so then I started traveling around the US, doing double under clinics, going to the CrossFit games, getting more involved in CrossFit. And then that's what connected me to someone who was recruiting for the Middle East. And there was an opportunity actually before that to move to Mexico. And I was working with Lululemon at the time. I was doing that part-time, and we wrote out our 1, 5, and 10-year goals. And one of my 5-year goals was to travel to another country. And one of my 5-year goals was to live in another country for more than 6 months. And literally a month and a half later was the opportunity came up to be able to move to Mexico. And I was like, okay, let's explore this. Let's look at what it looks like. And that fell through. And then all of a sudden it's like, actually, there's an opportunity to move to Kuwait. And I was like, oh, can I point out where Kuwait was on the map? That was the first and foremost. What do I know about it? I know that there's an army base, right? And so I look at that as like, what else opportunity? And I kept questioning back and forth, is this the right thing? And someone looked at me and said, Steph, what was the purpose of you writing the goals if you're not actually going to go through with them? And that's, one of those aha light bulb moments is like, all right, you put them down, you showed them to other people because you wanted to be held accountable for them. And here you are backing up saying, maybe it's not for me. So I said, okay, what am I going to lose?
Yeah.
And so I moved there in October of 2013 and stayed until the end of 2017. And it was one of the best decisions that I had. I knew nothing about the country. I never visited there. I knew I knew the people who worked for the business that had conversations with me. But other than that, I didn't know anyone. I had one conversation with one woman who lived there, and she kind of gave me her perspective, but there was no other females that were working for the business at the time. And so, what I loved about it is I was given the opportunity to start something fresh and recruit and build something that wasn't necessarily my own money. It wasn't my responsibility from a financial standpoint, but I was given free reign to be able to build something that could be incredible, and it ended up being. And the one thing that what we always joked about with the owner was he wanted total world domination. And we would joke about it, but he wasn't joking about it. He really wanted to do as much possible. And, you know, he trusted me with that, and we were able to be very successful. It's still a very successful business back. There's a couple coaches who are here now with your team that I recruited to move to Kuwait. So, and I say this is like the world is full circle. You know, the people that I was presented at the time have now gone on and done incredible things because of the opportunities. And so I'm here because of the opportunities that were presented to me, you know, and there's one thing, you can take the opportunity and you could do nothing with it, or you can try to take full advantage of it. And that's something that I did, you know, and I learned a lot from running someone else's business in Kuwait to then coming to Hong Kong, running someone else's business. So when it was time for me to do it with Pherform, I already felt like I had the tools to be able to do it.
Yeah. I love that last line is exactly what I was going to say. It's like, it's not by coincidence that you've stepped into this role and been able to be really successful with it. Like, you have accumulated all these years of experience and skill sets that, you know, when the time was right, you could just slide into that role. Okay.
One of the other goals on that list from Lululemon was in 10 years, own my own gym.
He's crushing all your goals.
Well, I did it in 8. Well, not all of them. I still don't speak Spanish. That was one of my.
Hey, but you're doing,
I'm getting there.
You're doing some things.
I'm getting there. But yeah, in 8 years, I was able to accomplish, that goal. I saw the other one was owning a G-Wagon. That's not there yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like it's appropriate for us right now to talk about Pherform.
Yeah.
Because we haven't really introduced the gym, your gym. So tell us a little bit about Pherform. Who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, so Pherform is a female-specific strength and conditioning gym. Our members are all females. Our goal is to teach women the importance of strength training. And obviously, we know it from a physiological standpoint. But we also are teaching consistency in habits. So whether that's training, nutrition, and lifestyle, we're just teaching them the basics of where you're at right now and how do we continue to improve. And we do that through a series of different ways, coaching, programming, structure, accountability.
Okay, so my first question is, I've never run a female-only gym. The majority of our clientele here, we have about a 55, almost 60% now, male to female split. So we are slightly more male-dominated. So I'm very aware of a lot of the stigmas around strength and conditioning, especially weight training, to be more specific, around females. That's evolved a shit ton since I've been in the industry. And I think like there's walking and talking evidence of just how much, especially in Hong Kong, females are now embracing it. Go to a High Rocks event, right? There's like 15,000 people over 3 days.
I love it.
All the chicks are in phenomenal shape.
Yep.
Right. Everyone's jacked. People have abs. Like, people are stripping off their clothes, like zero shame. It's fucking awesome as someone who's been in the industry and, you know, really resonates with, you know, the habits. I'm not saying that ripped bodies are necessarily, you know, a picture of health, but I just love where the industry is moving. So my question to you is, like, running a female only gym, like, what are the challenges associated with that? Is there this massive education piece that you've maybe not so much now, but like, you know, over the years since 2018 that you've been with the business, like, what are unique challenges that you face that maybe someone like myself doesn't have to face?
So I do need to say that the women at High Rocks, right, are typically not the demographic, what we're talking about, the super competitive, are not the demographic of the women in which we believe are our members at Pherform. And I think it's important to start off with that, because the people that we're working with, that we're trying to teach the importance of strength training, is that exercise should not be used as a way to punish yourself.
Yep.
And that is something that you're talking about, the everyday woman who has said, you know what, I ate this and I need to do this now, right? And so the biggest challenge is trying to change the mentality. And I agree with you, it's gotten so much better when it comes to the amount of education that's out there of the importance of strength training and what it does. But we're still facing the I need to exercise because of X, Y, and Z, right? Aesthetics are important, right? To certain people. Fine. That's not my place to judge. And yet, if that's important to you, how do we meet you to where you want to go? And yet, Why do you want to do it? Because that's the thing that's going to keep you longer and healthier from a longevity standpoint. So the biggest phase is understanding, trying to get a woman to understand what she's actually capable of, and that capability will change over time. Because they may think, well, I don't have time, or that's not me, or I'll never be that, or I used to be like that. It's the comparison factor.
Yep.
So that's the biggest challenge, is trying to get people to understand that, it's not about comparison. It's not about, that person looks like this, and therefore I want to be like that. It's where are you at right now, and what are you willing to do? Because I always say to the women, our women, who have been training with us consistently, I ask them, have you thought about High Rocks? And I'm going to use High Rocks as an example, because we run High Rocks specialty classes. Have you thought about High Rocks? And immediately their response, I can tell whether or not they thought about it. They're just not willing to admit it. If they say, not sure. If they say, no. And I say, why not? Oh, that's too extreme. It's like too extreme for where you feel like you're at right now. So there's a level of challenge that we want our members to have when it comes to coming into the group classes, is progression over perfection. That's a key saying that we say to them all the time. Consistency is key, right? Those are two similar things where we want you to habit stack. Come in every day, check the box. You've never done it before? Check the box. Coming into the gym for the first time is the hardest. Showing up is the hardest. Okay, now that we've shown up, what are we going to do with that? Right? Are you just going to be complacent, or are you going to try to push yourself to become better? So what you face here in a gym that only has, 45% women, it's still getting the women inside the door, right? And it's not looking at something like a High Rocks and saying, oh, that will never be me. Right? Because you don't have to imagine that being you. You have to imagine that you have one body for the rest of your life. How are you going to make sure that stays as mobile as possible? It stays as strong as possible, and you're able to live the longevity of a life in which you lead by and you're responsible for. Those are the biggest things that we're trying to send a message across, which is all education. It literally starts with educating people of, we're not in this just for the short term. We're in this for the long term, and so teaching those educational points is important without overwhelming them, overloading them, or making them feel bad because they're not at the level in which they think that they should be.
Steph, can I ask, you've got a lot of clarity on your avatar, right? Your ideal customer. Has that always been the ideal customer for Pherform? So even when you joined in 2018 as managing director, has that always been the person that Pherform wants to speak to, or has that evolved since you took over?
No, I will say from my perspective, what I always loved about CrossFit, and I still love CrossFit, is I found a lot of confidence through strength training. Me personally, there's nothing better than being able to do something that you think you can't do, and then you do it and you're like, oh shit, that felt good.
Yeah.
Right. Men are no different. It's the same thing. That's why we high five, we cheer, we support each other. You celebrate that success. So that was always something that I carried on. And so when coming to Pherform, I wanted to make sure that we were still looking at the importance of strength training, but there was a clear difference between the old owner and myself, when it came to an aesthetic perspective. We used to do things called transformations.
Yeah.
And there was a program called FFF. And I was like, I get the program, but I'm not on board.
What does that stand for?
Female fat loss formula.
Yeah.
I was not on board with putting side by side comparisons of women's aesthetic bodies on our social media. I was not on board with using that in our branding. I get it that aesthetics is important to people, but that should be the byproduct of the hard work that's put in through consistent training, not because they're coming into the gym because I want to lose I want to crash diet in a 12-week period, 8-week period, whatever that looks like. So in the beginning, it was, if you look back at some of
I remember.
It was transformations, and I would cringe. Because it was something that I'm like, we're putting the wrong message out. We're putting the message out that these women think that, okay, well, I can look like this, and then that's it. It's like, well, what habits did we teach them? What habits did we teach them in that 12 weeks or those 8-week program? Nutrition programs are important. You know this, right? You need accountability. But when I'm telling you everything to do and then all of a sudden, okay, bye-bye, you go do whatever you need to, right? You watch your own plans, then have we taught them how to implement that into their regular lives? And we often found people that did our FFF program, then a year later would come back and say, oh, well, I went back to that phase of it. And it's like, well, you went back to the phase? Well, because I know I got results that time. But they basically gained everything, or most of them gained something back, but that's because the education was not there.
Yeah.
Right? They weren't putting first, do I know why I'm training, the importance of training? What strength training will do to my body composition over time? Or am I only solely looking at it from, well, the less I eat, the less I'm actually going to gain, which we know is obviously complete opposite. Yeah. So yeah, it was, my messaging from the beginning was always similar, but I've definitely transitioned the importance much more of habit stacking, habit building for sure within our education.
Team, I want to quickly interrupt this episode to give a little shout out to our sponsors today, Well Spent. This little journal has made such a massive, profound impact on my life since I started using it. When I started using it, I actually didn't know that it was backed by neuroscience, but now it totally makes sense. This has brought a ton of gratitude to my life. It keeps me on track and focused on the things I need to do day to day, and brings a lot of context as to how each day fits within the greater week and the greater month. So if you, like me, really care about trying to be a high performer and want to do everything you can to make that happen, I cannot recommend this journal enough. Use our discount code, The Process, to grab yours today. So I want to talk about that transition, right? So you've got a company who is using X method to basically market itself, and transformations, like they're a powerful marketing tool. I totally get why gyms build their entire business model around it. As a consumer, it's like, wow, I can achieve all my dreams in 8 weeks, and I've got evidence there to see it. So I get why it works and why so many companies do it. So, you're a company, you come to the company, you realize that using X method to basically market, and basically the whole business is built around that. And you basically decide to change it to Y. Like that process, how did you do it?
Well, so this is at the time then in which, again, I was still managing director. I was not owner yet.
Yeah.
And so I walked into Pherform knowing that I had the skill sets and I had the confidence to be able to run this business as if it was my own. From day one, I always did that. I said, I'm going to run this business as if it's my own. I know it's not, but I will make the decisions in which I feel are best suited for the members and the success of the brand.
Yeah.
And this was hard conversations I had to have with the owner at the time. It's like, can we not do that? I'm okay with us talking about the success that these people have had, but can we not do it? And it was something that we kept going back and forth with. And we finally got to the point where it's like, okay, we won't. But how are we going to continue to bring clients in?
Yeah.
Right? Thinking that is. And there's a whole other level that it comes to. It wasn't just that too. It was the type of coaching, right? The coaching of, how we talk to our members needs to be from a positive affluence and influence towards someone. They don't need another person in the gym telling them how shitty they were because, from the outside perspective, they got so much pressure, especially women, so much pressure of wearing so many different hats in their household and at work and being a mother and being a wife, and being an individual. They don't need another person in the gym saying, why are you doing this? What are you doing? Why do you look like shit? It's hammering them to the ground, right? And so there's a way of coaching people that is also necessary where you can get them to do more, right? But positively encouraging them, right? Telling them, hey, let's try one more. Do you think you can do more? How did that feel? So there's a different way of being able to coach them that also put that much more ownership on them, but presented in a different way that you can succeed without having this transformation. You can succeed without feeling like they're degraded all the time. When those were it was just constantly just dabbing in a little bit more, but really feeling like my messaging in which I wanted from the women that were coming in, I had to stand strong on that and really say is we can still achieve what it is that we want to without having to show people a before and after
So
picture.
what did the marketing strategy then become? If it wasn't about before and afters now, and I understand that now we're talking like habitually, I'm
Hmm.
gonna make these, long changes, which I can also understand is less sexy, maybe on an Instagram page and harder for someone to resonate with. So what like it was subtly, what was a new marketing shift then if it became less about transformations for you guys?
We started showing much more of the movements inside the gym,
Nice. So what you could do with
much
the
more strength
body,
training,
what you
right?
could do with the body versus what the body looks like.
Correct. If you look at, and even till now, a lot of what we put on our social media is women lifting weights.
Yeah.
It's very rarely that you'll see them actually moving with intensity or speed, right? Or obviously we have conditioning days, but I really try the pictures in which we use, the videos in which we use, are focused on strength building, strength training, the different types of strength movements that we do, to showcase what you're going to expect when coming into the session,
Yeah.
right? It's not about the sweatier you are, the better the workout, right? It's the intensity that you're putting in. Did you add load? Did you add resistance? Did you add speed? Those are the things that are important when it comes to increasing intensity, not just a sweaty workout.
Yeah, love it. I
Yeah.
resonate deeply with that for Coastal here as well.
Hmm.
Okay, switching gears a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to now go to the point in time where Stephanie, you decide to move from becoming from being the managing director to
Hmm.
now becoming the owner of Perform. What were
Hmm.
the biggest challenges in transitioning that role that you faced?
So biggest challenge was obviously I bought the business mid COVID. I bought it in July, officially signed the papers July 1st,
Was that a
2021.
strategic move or was that just when you had the opportunity to do
No,
it?
it wasn't strategic at all. The old owner wanted to sell for quite a while. Since I came aboard, he had been looking for strategically looking for different ways to be able to either bring in equity partners or franchise it or buy him out altogether.
Yeah.
And I just happened to have a conversation with a friend, and I was saying, I'd been offered a position to move to London, and a friend of mine who I recruited when I was in Kuwait had 2 gyms. And he had said, when I open the third with the goal of 5, I want to bring you on board. And so, he literally was in negotiation to get this 3rd gym. And I was like, do I want to live in London? It's cold, and I was talking to a friend and he goes, well, you always want to own your business. That Pherform wants to get sold. Why don't you just buy it? And it was that aha moment where I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of right. So me knowing the numbers, I started running the financials, saying, okay, well, what I think it's worth versus what it's being valued are 2 totally different things, and kind of kept going back and forth. And finally, I presented, hey, I'm interested in ownership, and we kept going back and forth of numbers. And so again, this is during COVID, and what ended up happening is they didn't renew our lease in our current space.
Mm.
And they said, oh, well, you're going to have to move. And I'm like, okay, well, this sucks. Now I'm not buying the space. I'm not buying the brick and mortar. I'm buying a list. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm buying a name and I'm buying a list of clients.
Yeah.
Right. And so this gave me a little bit more opportunity to be able to say, all right, here's the offer. Let's roll with it. And so we came to an agreement and it happened. And then obviously we had been shut down so many times, and finally we opened back up. And I remember saying, all right, I can no longer use COVID as the excuse of why the business is where it's at. I got to do something, right? Our doors are open. Half of our members are still away. We're still limited to the amount of people that we can have in each of the classes, right? I can continue to say as like, all right, are we going to stay afloat? Right? Or are we actually going to do something to make this business as successful as I thought that it needed to be? And so I accountability was something that was always important to me. I didn't have that being my own boss and my own owner. I had the people around me, but that wasn't the same. And so I hired Two Brain Business, which is a mentorship that guides gyms. And I've been with them ever since in 2023. And it literally was the biggest change. And I'm grateful for it. It's literally changed my perspective on business ownership and operations. It challenged me because the things that I thought were correct actually had a better opportunity to be able to be successful. And there were a lot of times my mentor in the first 90 days, I remember she challenged me a lot.
Mm.
And she's like, why don't you just try it? And I just wanted to keep my foot down on the ground and say, no, no, no. And I'm like, what was the purpose of signing up for this stuff? And it was conversations I had with myself all the time. What was the purpose of signing up for this? You wanted the accountability. Someone's trying to hold you accountable, and yet you're not taking it. And I was like, all right, time to change. And, our operations, we used to just let people in and do drop-ins. We were much more about the quick, short, three class pack, 21 day. She's like, well, you don't have any you don't have any conversation with anyone who's coming into the gym before they come in. So how do you know about the people? So we changed our entire process. And that's still to this day the same. We don't allow drop-ins. We don't allow any third class party bookings to come in like ClassPass. They have to have a call with us. You can't go onto the website. We have nothing on our memberships. You can't just go on and buy something. You have a call with us. And part of that is says, we want to know more about you. And we also want to see, are you a fit for the gym? Right? It's because this is a two-way street. It's not just about you. It's also about us. And, this is how we've been able to build the community and the culture that we have, is because we get to see is like, all right, you have a goal of losing, let's say 15 kg, right? And you want someone who's going to give you everything to do that. And we'll put our hands up saying, we're not the right people for you.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But we'll direct you we'll give you the direction in which you want. And oftentimes that happens. Someone comes in and saying, well, you don't offer what what we're looking for. Not a problem. And I said, but I'll say, do you want my suggestions?
Yeah.
Tell me what you're looking for and I'll give you all the other gyms that I trust in their coaching and their programming that will help you get there. So there's a lot of things that challenge then was presented towards me, as a leader. How am I leading my people? But how am I leading the brand in which I'm trying to grow? And am I taking that accountability myself? And so, getting someone else to hold me accountable. Same thing that I say we as a group-based gym does. Our coaches hold you accountable. Our staff hold you accountable. If you can't do it on yourself, find people who will help you. So it was the same thing that I preached to everyone else, and that I had to really look and say, am I doing the same thing?
I mean, I couldn't agree with all that more. Like the idea of when you're at the top of organization, having someone that you are accountable to, and just having, another someone who's got more knowledge, more experience for you to lean on. I spent way too many years out of the last 16 not having that person. I have that person now, and I've had people along the way, but looking back, I wish I'd always had that person in my corner.
Well, it's different having people that you can go on to and, hey, I need help with something.
Yeah.
It's another saying, all right, we talked about this last week. And at the end of the day, this is what the one thing that I do like about Two Brain is that they are mentors and their accountability. If I come to a meeting, on a Zoom call, and I said last month I wanted to accomplish something and I didn't accomplish, they're like, okay, then it must have not been important. I'm not going to get scolded for that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's a self-reflection of, well, I'm on a 90-day sprint right now. And one of the questions was about coaching and me being on the floor. And it's like, are you okay with stepping away? And I was like, oh, I'm not sure. I said, well, then maybe it's not as important of you stepping away as you say it is.
Yeah.
It's like, and those are sometimes the blind spots that we don't see as leaders, that we see of our people, that we also need. We need that self-reflection from ourselves, but we also need someone else to say is like, hey, you said that was important, right? You're not just asking me for my opinion.
Yeah.
You're saying that was important, and yet you're showing me that it's not. So either you readjust or you figure out a way that this is something that you want to move the needle forward.
Okay, you mentioned something now. You just dropped the word community, and you said something around, this is why we have such a good community. When I think about Pherform, I think about community. I think you guys have created something really special, but from the outside looking in, unless you're in it, it's hard to know what like the secret sauce is. Like, what are you guys doing that's been able to cultivate this great community in your gym? But you also do some cool stuff out of it as well. Like, you got your dream team stuff where you do, free sessions for domestic helpers. You've got the supporter event as well. So let's start by talking about in the gym. So like, what do you guys do? You already mentioned you hired someone to basically work on relationships in your gym. And you
Mhm.
said that was a game changer.
Yeah.
So like, tell me a little bit about the things that you guys do that you think has massively contributed to you building a great community. And one more thing,
Yeah.
is community a big part of your business plan?
Uh, all right. So let's start off with that one. Culture is a big part of our community brand. Uh, you build the right culture, you build a community. And I think that that is having like-minded individuals. And so, I mentioned earlier is every member that comes into a potential client who comes to perform and is interested. 90% are referrals. 90% are, hey, I know someone at Perform, or I heard good things about Perform. Um, and that's something that I'm very proud. I'm very proud to hear, because we spend a lot of time doing the things inside of the four walls to be able to build that. It's not, we have things that we do outside that are community based. But I would say that everything that we do when it comes to building a good culture, building a good community, is within the four walls of Perform. It starts from the first call that they have. So we have a member advisor. Her sole responsibility is to manage all brand new clients that are coming in and the current clients in which we have. And that is everything from, hey, here's the first call. What are your goals? Right? And how can we help achieve those? Then from there, they have a 2-week on ramp where they have the first session that they have is with a personal trainer. So they meet with a PT coach and they go through their strength intro. So our goal for that session is to get them to understand what to expect before they get into a group class. When we're in a group class, there's roll call. We always say celebrate success. We motivate and inspire. So when you are next to someone and you don't know their name, make sure to introduce yourself. And that comes from leadership. Coaches telling members. And then when members understand that, the members then within the culture start doing that to other people. So it starts from the time that they're on the call to when they have their first session with us to when they actually come into the classes. Then within the classes, it's the language in which we use. We use that positive affirmation. So making sure that we're giving them the best tools possible to make sure that they know that they are more, their capabilities are more than what they think, right? So saying is like, hey, I think you can do a little bit more. Right? Have you tried a little bit more? You're doing really well. Let's try to increase it a little bit. Right? So that culture then comes on, and then celebrating success at the end of the session. So that's all within the group session. But then what happens is when you're brand new, you have a 30, 60, and 90-day goal strategy session. So you're meeting with our team to be able to say is like, hey, what are the most important things that you're trying to habit stack right now? And have we done those? You said you wanted to come to class 2 times a week. Great. Let's look at your attendance. How is it going? Right? You said that you wanted to get a little bit more sleep. How's that going? If it was important, right? And this is where that accountability comes from. You said it was important. And hey, if not, let's do a new prescription. You go to the doctor. If something's not working, does the doctor then say, oh, no, just okay. Keep taking whatever I gave you last time? Typically it's like, okay, well, if it's not working, let's prescribe something new. It's the same kind of thing that we do with brand new members when it comes to habit stacking. So they're getting inside the classes when it comes to programming. They're getting inside when it comes to coaching, but that is then led to members and making sure that we're also telling members that you need to introduce yourself to people. You need to celebrate success. The thing in which you wanted, the thing that you were scared of from the beginning, you're also then telling other people. So in today's class, prime example, it's a strength-based class. A couple of the ladies were doing work and one of the ladies said, all right, she looked at her and goes, should we go a little bit heavier? And the girl goes, yeah. It didn't take a coach to do that, but led by a coach, led by other people, then the members start picking up on that, right? And then from there, every 90 days thereafter, we have goal strategy sessions with the members. But we follow up. We do AWOL reports every 2 weeks. If you haven't been into the gym, we follow up. We say, hey, so-and-so, where you're at. We have lists of what people, the information about people. If they're gone on suspensions, if they're injured, we check in on them. So there's a lot of touch points that we do, which is that accountability. But it comes from the people within the gym actually caring about the people in which we have. Like if someone, is sick, we generally care that they're sick about it, because then when you walk into the door for the first time, no one should walk in the front door and not say hi or have a smiling face, right? Say hello, shake their hand. If you don't know anyone, you should introduce yourself. Those are all the small things that add up. Those are all within the confines of the four walls. Because if someone has a good experience, then that then carries on to everything else that they do in their life. You have a good gym experience, and we say you have 3 homes, right? You have your work, you have your home, and you have the gym. The last thing you want to do is show up to the gym and feel like it's a place that's sour, right? Or like, oh, I don't really want to be here. You want it to be a positive atmosphere. And there are times that that members have a shitty day at work and they come in and they bring that energy into the gym, and we say, all right, how do we get that away? And how do we make sure that you put that towards your workout? Because the more we allow that to happen, the more it starts eating away at other people. And then they're like, oh, I don't want that. Right.
It's hard though. I can understand like driving home a culture within a team who you employ and pay is easy, because like it's easy to hide behind the excuse and say like this is just how we do it here and you're a part of this, so therefore you kind of got to get on board. I can imagine it's harder. I mean, I know it's harder when it's the members, they're paying you to come here, and you're maybe seeing something that's not in full alignment with the culture that you're trying to create within the business. How do you navigate that?
It's hard conversations. I mean, I've had to fire members before. And sometimes that one bad apple is not worth the other 99 that are good.
And it's not worth the money they're paying.
It's
I
not.
think that's the thing
It's
that most
not.
business owners are scared of, right? It's like letting go of that person, meaning that you're going to receive X amount less. And so you don't do it. But the impact, the intangible, unquantifiable impact that it has on the rest of your membership.
It's a fine line, right? And there are times that it's happened. There's if and when it starts going into other people and other people then saying they're noticing it, that's when there's an issue, right? We do a secret member evaluation as well. And so members will go into coaches' classes, and there's a format that they have to fill out, and then we have those conversations with coaches. And there was one a while ago that was about an individual and about a coach, right? And when talked to that coach about it, immediately like, well, that person's just sour in the class. It's like, okay, fine. What did we do to navigate that space and it's actually talking about that, right? How can you navigate when someone is sour or they make a comment, right? Someone's like, I just don't feel like it today. Does a coach just ignore that or saying, hey, not a problem. What can you do today?
Yeah.
So our goal of coaches is to try to change our approach towards it rather than meeting them where they're at. It really is, we have to take a step back. And sometimes that's hard, and we all know it. And if we've ever overstepped our boundary, being okay with then saying, hey, I apologize for that, the way in which it came out. Like, we're not all perfect. Like, us as coaches are not perfect. Members are not perfect. We don't expect that. But there are times where if you got someone who is out of culture, then having that conversation with them is important. And if it carries on, if it's one time, fine. If it's a couple times, you're like, okay, maybe something's going on in their life. And that's where often we can find when we meet with members, it's saying, what's going on? I'm getting divorced, right? I just got fired from work, right? And it's like, okay, now we can understand like where maybe that's coming from. But when it's continuous and it's starting to infiltrate, and we're like, all right, where do we have to cut that loss? And that's a hard decision. It's a hard conversation. Sometimes, same thing with staff. Sometimes you just got to do it.
Yeah.
And it's worth to have that in the short term for the long term.
Let's continue with community.
Yeah.
But let's talk about community outside. You shared some unbelievable things you're doing within the gym that's ultimately impacting the business in a positive way. But you guys use some pretty cool things outside of it as well. So talk to me about the Dream Team.
Yeah.
And speak to me about the other events that you guys hold.
The Dream Team, I'm telling you, if you ever need the biggest smile on your face. You go down on Sunday mornings down. Right now we're at Sun Yet Suns Park. Uh, it was started before I got here, but it's continued. And every Sunday, there's a group of domestic helpers that come together. Dream Team is a free service that we provide to all domestic helpers. They come out and they can get a good workout in. Sundays is typically the day in which they have off, but it's become its own community of its own. And, the women are just so happy all the time. Hi,
Good
coach. Hi,
energy.
coach. Hi, coach. And it's a free service, but there was, I think, 20 of them that just competed in High Rocks this last time, and they're just so proud. But it's founded off of people volunteering their time to give back to these domestic helpers. One of our old coaches, Liz Hall Cooper, she's not with us anymore. She was a member here, did a lot of training here. She was in London. Now she's back in Australia. She led them for the longest time. Now we have one of our members who's also a domestic helper, Grace. She's a rock star. She goes out, she trains with them, but she coaches them and she teaches them like literally nutrition and lifestyle and how to navigate the space of being in someone else's house. And she's bought equipment. Sometimes like High Rocks, getting them prepared, we brought them back into the gym on the days in which we didn't have Sunday morning sessions. We bring them in and we teach them the mechanics of strength training. We teach them movement patterns. We teach them the importance of movement. And then we had like this last time we had some that were High Rocks based, teaching them pacing, giving them the opportunity to go through all of these. And they're just so grateful. They're always smiling. And then we just had the annual party. We went down to the beach. They cooked a bunch of food. We did a workout. We did some animal flow. We did, some yoga, and that's all. Grace organized it. She is a rock star. She comes in and then she takes the information that we teach her as a member, and she takes that and then teaches them. So it's something that it's free to all domestic helpers. They can come in, they can join, and it's its own community on its own. And then we obviously have our supporter events that I've been running since 2019, coming from the CrossFit space. I was always involved with like Barbell for Boobs, which was always in October, raising money for breast cancer awareness. And I want to do something that was similar where we could use our exercise, we could use our fitness, and raise money for a local charity or a local NGO. And we've been doing it. Now we're running into our 7th year, which we'll be doing this year. We're raising money for the Hong Kong Federation of Women's Centers. They provide women's aid, financial aid, law, housing. They have groups and workshops that they work with women on who, a lot of them are elderly or they're dealing with the elderly. And so we're raising money towards that. And we get, coaches to be captains. They lead the members in a workout and we get out and we raise money. And part of that is a donation for participation. So we've been doing that for the last 7 years. We've rode a marathon. We've ran a marathon. We did 2019 calories on the bike. We did 2,023 minutes of work. There's been a lot of different things that we've done over the years, but it's a way for us just to get outside of the gym, and put our time and efforts of what we learn in the gym and raise money for a local charity.
So can I ask, Steph? We do charity work every year, and I've always
the
believed in
Wad.
it, but I always feel like I'm not doing enough, right? There's like, I have this kind of goal that I write down every year, which falls under the category of giving.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I always, I have a dream of having a charity one day, my own one, or like building a school for underprivileged people. So something I want to do. And actually just quite recently, we were speaking to, Jel, who's, helps us out in the gym here, who works for Izzy as her helper. And she, came up with the idea, like, would you ever do something for domestic helpers? And we were like, that would be incredible. And, obviously you guys popped into my head straight away.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of gym owners would look at this idea of doing free stuff, which doesn't, yield instant return. You're not charging for it. There's no money coming in from it instantly. So my question to you is like, why do you keep on doing it? I know this was a part of your business before you came, but why do you keep on doing it?
We do it because literally when we're talking about domestic helpers, they're the foundation of Hong Kong. And a lot of them are not paid enough to be able to afford a gym membership. And It's the least that you can do. It's 1 hour of your time. And I will say is, from a financial standpoint, what we do with Dream Team is if you attend every Saturday or however many Sundays within the month, your name goes into a drawing. And so at the end of the month, they draw out a name, and whoever's name is picked gets a free membership at Pherform.
Amazing.
So they get one free month of membership.
Love that.
And they can attend any times that they want to. Now, some of the ladies can't attend at all because their work, their hours just don't fit, or they live a little bit farther away. And we're not an NGO. We're not, we're not registered with the government for this organization. We don't raise money for it. But it's just an opportunity to be able to give these people who give their time for everyone. And it really and they're just grateful for it.
I love it.
And it's 1 hour. It's 1 hour per week that, and so it gives me I get done and I'm like, all right.
Feels good.
It feels good. It feels good to see how happy they are. Because sometimes you think you need that perspective. And it's like, you know what? We all know fitness makes people's lives better.
Mm.
And if that can be given through our knowledge to someone else, then why wouldn't we?
Yeah, I love it. It's very inspiring.
If you want to come down and coach, I know that they would love it.
I
They
would
would love it.
Yeah, no, I would love to.
Yeah.
Steph,
You can ride your bike.
I will. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask about goals?
Yeah.
Because at the start of this podcast, you talked about some lofty goals that you'd set with Lululemon, and you've actually achieved a lot of them. I know there's some that you maybe haven't achieved yet, but there's some pretty massive, lofty goals that you set for yourself that you've now gone and achieved. Moving countries, owning your own business, learning a language, which I'm not sure where you're at right now.
It's getting there.
But have you always been a goal setter? Has that always been something that you do? Or are you someone who just kind of goes with the flow, and if it's working, keep on doing it and good shit will come?
No, I need goals. I need things that are tangible. So I have a couple different goals. Obviously, the tangible ones that I know that I can work towards, and there's the overall feeling of goals. And meaning, how do I want to feel?
Yeah.
And so I've always been driven by being able to accomplish something, and if I don't accomplish it, that's okay. But striving towards something has always kept the needle moving forward.
Yeah. I resonate with that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, what lies ahead for Stephanie Poelman, and what lies ahead for Pherform?
So I'm working on franchising. And so that's been something that I've more openly started to talk about. People within Pherform know, because obviously me moving away from being on the floor of coaching allows me to focus on scaling the business when it comes to franchising in other countries, which is a whole other project on its own. And my goal is not to be this mass-produced franchise. It is to have the presence. I know that the presence of Pherform can be in every metropolitan area. I have a lot of old members that have actually reached out and said, Steph, out of all the years I've lived in these other cities, there's nothing that still I can find that compares to what Pherform gave me.
It's a very nice compliment.
And it is. And having those conversations, and they're like, I would open up Pherform. And I'm like, well, there's a difference between you want to perform in that space or you're willing to actually invest. And it's no, I'm actually willing to invest. And so those conversations is really what sparked, and so for me to be able to do that, which is having 3 locations, including Hong Kong's, having 3 locations in the next 3 years is my ultimate goal. And so really putting that attention towards franchising, building out the franchise model, but there's also the building out the operations standards and procedures, and making sure what we say we do, is it feasible, and is it repeatable? Branding guidelines, those are something where I've always been the one responsible for doing, and it's the messaging, but it's like, can I actually replicate that? If I were to give this to someone else, would someone actually understand what the messaging is, what it should look like, what it should feel like? And so those are all the things. And then obviously the legal side, all of those are the bigger picture things that I've started to work on over the last 5 months.
I bet just going through the process of writing all of that down with the idea that this could be something you can hand over to someone and they're going to execute it has brought you so much clarity in your business.
It's brought me a lot of clarity. It's also brought me a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
A lot of confusion is like, is this, and this is self-doubt. Is this feasible? Is this feasible to duplicate? I know that the idea of it is, but have we made it more complicated than we need to? And this is coming from the process procedure part.
Yeah.
Because if you look at from a financial standpoint, a third of what we spend goes towards staff pay.
Yeah.
And in talking with Two Brain, they're like, well, how do we decrease that? It's like, but I don't want to decrease that.
We're the same.
Yeah. I want to provide opportunities to the people in which are working for me. Now, I don't have full-time, I have a full-time coach, but I don't have a slew of full-time coaches. I would like to get to that point. But if I look at a lot of what we spend our time in is that accountability when it comes to operations team, right? And so that accountability in which we provide to our members has a value associated with it, right? And so I continue to look at this, like, is this something that can be scaled on opening it in a brand new location, and how quickly would it be? And those are the things that I have the self-doubt is like, well, maybe not. But then I also have to remind myself, but what if?
Yeah.
But what if? And that's what drives me. And if I don't have those goals and if I don't write those down, right, of the things that are objectives to be able to say, yes, that is done. Yes, I'm moving that needle forward. I'll never actually know whether it's possible or not.
And what about you, Steph? Because I know before this podcast, you were talking about yourself as well, setting some personal goals. What's happening?
Well, I mean, ultimately, like having Hong Kong as the base of Pherform, but my ultimate goal is to be able to not have to be based here in Hong Kong. And part of that is that franchising, is being able to run a bigger business from not necessarily anywhere, but somewhere from outside of Hong Kong. And in the beginning, I have an idea, like when that franchise gets set up, like I would be the person that would going into that franchise space and setting it up, getting it up and running, and then passing it on to someone else. I know in the beginning that that's most likely the way in which I want it, because I want the corporation of Pherform as the franchisee, as the franchisor, to have that relationship with the franchisee.
Yeah.
I don't want it to just sell and that's it.
Give me the money and here's a manual, see you later.
And the same thing is like in this space of lease agreements, is being part of that conversation, because you can go to the cheapest area. It's not about zip code. It's about what is the most financially sound, but what makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Because if we go to the cheapest space, which may be warehouse, people aren't going to gravitate towards that, especially if you're looking in, a financial district. You want to be as close proximity to the people in which you're trying to make their life easier, not harder.
Yeah.
You're trying to make it simple that they don't have to think about going to the gym and doing a 1-hour session and during their lunchtime, and then from there being able to go back to work. Because guess what? After work, they gotta put their mom hat on. They got to put their dad or their parent hat on. They have to their wife hat. Maybe they have to cook. They have to do all the financials. And now they need some personal space. They need to do the house. Now you need to get to sleep and you need to do it all over again. And so making the training, and this is the other thing, is like making the training as simple. We haven't even talked about that. Like the programming, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single day, our class schedule is the same programming. So if you can only come in at 7 a.m., you're going to get the same program as the people coming at 9 a.m. Versus, well, if I can only come at 7 a.m., it's strength, and then 9 a.m. is conditioning. I'm not teaching you the understanding and the importance of following a program. You're just having to come in whatever is convenient to you. So we give them the flexibility to be able to come into any of the classes throughout the day, but they're still going to get the same programming. They're still going to get the same structure. They're still going to get the same coaching. And leading into is saying, all right, this is a program. So you can walk in. You don't have to, it's not that you don't have to think, but you just need to show up. And then from there, the work gets done. The more complicated you make that for people, especially women, right? The harder it's going to be for them to stay consistent.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Steph, this has been great. I have a closing tradition.
Yeah.
that has just started.
Okay.
You are guest number 3
Oh,
that's going to answer this.
tres.
So the tradition is,
Yeah.
the new tradition is a quote or a mantra that resonates deeply with you right now.
Uh, one that resonates with me now, but has always led me, which is one of my 3 values, which I have tattooed, is leave a legacy.
What does that mean to you?
That the ability is whether I'm here or away, that whatever I do, people remember, and it's left some sort of imprint on them.
Love that.
Yeah.
Stephanie, this has been fantastic.
Ed, thank you for having me back.
Thank you always
Yes.
for giving me your time, not just on the podcast. You've been a massive help to me. I reached out to you recently with some, advice, looking for some advice and some help and some business things that I was working on, and you were so generous with your time and advice. So thank you. And I just always enjoy our chats. And
Thank
you're doing
you.
amazing stuff.
Thank you. I think, we need more people who share what we're doing and not feel like it's a secret.
Yeah.
The more of us that can succeed, the better. So thank you again for having me on. It's always a pleasure. And yeah, Coastal's always been my home. You've always opened your door and provided me insights. So I thank you.
Steph, where can people find out about you?
You can find Pherform at Pherform HK on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can find me at Steph Poelman, Poelman. We're located in Central on Wyndham Street, so literally in the heart of Central Hong Kong. And yeah, hopefully outside of Hong Kong soon enough.
Thank you, Steph.
Thank you, Ed.
Before we say goodbye, here's one crazy statistic for you. Did you know that almost 40% of people who listen to the show don't actually subscribe to it? Now, I didn't think that was a big deal until I actually learned about the power of hitting subscribe. For you, the listener, you get to stay up to date when we drop episodes on a weekly basis. But for us as a podcast, it really helps our visibility and helps us attract great brands and great listeners to help grow this podcast. So if you enjoyed this episode or you're a big fan of the show, please do us a massive favor and hit subscribe. Thank you so much.